to be talking about some principles of introduction to farm management. The structure of farming has changed drastically today from what it was historically. Farmers used to produce staples such as corn and soybeans, or beef and pork, and today we're looking at niche markets, direct marketing to farmers markets, and even aquaculture, the farming of fish. Consumer demands are driving what the farmer produces now rather than the assets that he or she has on the farm. And people and organizations and business plans are the assets to the farm manager rather than simply focusing on machinery or buildings or land. Production sites are diverse. The farms themselves are diverse. The products, there's a mix of products, whereas traditionally farms have been geographically centralized, focused on just a few different products. So in this changing environment, farm management principles are key to a successful business and a farm plan. You may be looking at this slide thinking, what on earth is that picture? That's actually an open ocean cage for aquaculture, the farming of fish. Many of you may not be familiar with this technique. So here's some pictures of different fish farms. We have a shellfish farmer in the United States growing shellfish close to shore, oysters in Washington, some open ocean cages in Norway, and some catfish land-based ponds like those often seen in the southeast USA. Really, aquaculture is just the farming of fish, the rearing of aquatic organisms, similar to livestock husbandry that we've seen for years in cattle and beef and chickens. Going back to our point about consumer demand driving production in agriculture today, look at the fish production trends. We've seen over the course of the last decade fish consumption increasing. Consumers are looking more towards their tastes and their health concerns, and so they're eating more fish. And to meet that demand, production has had to shift from traditionally wild capture fisheries to now a mix of farming fish to supply enough seafood to meet the consumer demand. And you really see in this graph, on the horizontal axis you have the years in 3 different graphs for the world, China, and the world excluding China. And on the vertical axis you have the supply, the production. The lighter color is capture fisheries and the darker color is aquaculture. So you really see that China is driving the aquaculture industry. Their fish farming has actually surpassed their wild capture fisheries today, and 60% of the aquaculture products in the world come from China. So this is just setting the idea for fish farms. And now let's take it back to, well, how can I start a fish farm, and what are my important principles in that endeavor? Farm management, we've talked about the past couple of days, organizing the farm, planning and directing farm operations day to day, and marketing and selling your products. These are the keys to farm management. But today we're going to talk about actually arranging finance and credit, making financial statements, and specifically focusing on balance sheets and income statements. And then we'll do some exercises at the end of the class to actually put together some balance sheets in Excel. What is a balance sheet? It's a statement of the financial condition of a business at one specific time. So you're looking at your assets and your liability, where you stand in your business today. The formula assets minus liability makes up your equity or your net worth of your business. So let's think about what some assets could be in your farm, and particularly in your fish farm. Assets are anything that you own. They could be land, your pond is a piece of land, or equipment such as a crane used to harvest your open ocean fish, or maybe a tractor that you use on the farm. Liabilities are what your business owes. You might have an operating line of credit through Farm Credit Services or your local bank, or you could have outstanding bills to the feed company, for example. And when you take the assets and you subtract the liability, that's the equity of your business, what your business is worth. So it's really important to have this balance sheet put together. This is just an example of, so that you've got it for your notes, of what we'll be putting together in Excel hands-on later. This is a real example from a farm in Honduras, a shrimp farm, 350 hectares, which, if you do the math, is about 680 acres. So you see that they list and describe each of their assets, their current assets like cash or inventory, and then their non-current assets, machinery and equipment, those assets that you keep over a longer period of time. Liabilities would be accounts payable, like we discussed, and the current portion of your debt right now. And you see here at the end that the total liabilities and owner equity once it's all separated up. The second important financial statement for your business is the income statement, which is a statement of your real farm revenues or income and the costs. And you subtract those costs from your revenue to calculate your net income, your total gross returns on the business. You'll need to remember this formula: profit equals total revenue minus total costs, throughout your farm management career. And I'll break down each of these terms so that you can have a better understanding of what profit really means. So total revenue is calculated by price times quantity, and your total costs are a mix of fixed costs and variable costs. If you think about total revenue, you're selling your product. You get a specific price for your fish, and the more you sell, the higher your income, or total revenue. So your total costs, fixed costs, would be costs that you incur regardless of your production rate. Whether you produce no fish, if all of your fish die and you have no income, no product to show, you're still going to incur those costs. So I've got a picture here, the cage for the under the open ocean cage aquaculture. And once you put that cage in the ocean, that's a fixed cost. Whether you produce any fish or not, you've already invested that money. Your depreciation on something like the cage, or maybe on a tractor, as soon as you buy it, the value of that equipment goes down, and that's called depreciation, wear and tear. Variable costs will change as your production increases or decreases. This picture is a really good example of variable costs because you have two being shown in the picture. You have labor, the man who's feeding the fish, and then also fish food. If you increase production, you're going to need more labor on your farm, so that varies with your production. And same with feed. If you have more fish, you're going to need to feed more. We'll take a closer look at the income statement in our exercise later this afternoon and separate out all of those expenses and think about things like depreciation a little more. Here you see revenue. Shrimp sales are pretty high for this shrimp farm in Honduras. So that, again, that goes back to the price times quantity. How many shrimp they sold at the going price, and they've got their revenue. And they've listed their expenses here really specifically. You see the post larvae, which would be like seed for the fish farm, fertilizer, and chemicals or labor, and even marketing costs and insurance. Just to summarize the points that we've learned today, we're taking concepts from farm management, traditional farms, traditional agriculture that have been applied for decades, and applying them to aquaculture management. Again, aquaculture is the farming of fish and can be done in the open ocean, near shore, or in ponds on land. We've looked at the important financial statements for your farm management strategy. We've reviewed the equations. Equity are your assets minus your liabilities. And again, we've reviewed how to make a profit, how to calculate your profit. total revenue minus total costs. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to demonstrate my teaching abilities, a brief demonstration for the application process at UT Martin. I'm new to this, but I'm so excited to help your students, and I appreciate your consideration.